Okay, welcome back to Tech Tuesday. Thanks for coming. Okay, so we've been covering and learning about Jigsaw Method for, this is our third week, and these are the 3 more variations of Jigsaw Method. So just to review quickly what we've learned previously of what Jigsaw Method is it's a cooperative learning style, and it's a way to break up your class into groups and have the students learn the information and then present it to each other. So that's Jigsaw 1. Okay? Breaking them up. Each group, let's say you evenly distribute the groups. Inside that group, each student is an expert in part of that topic that you are giving to them. So that's Jigsaw 1, just to review. Third reading. Now, Jigsaw 2 is basically Jigsaw within Jigsaw at the conception. Inside your expert groups, let's say your expert group, you're doing chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Inside chapter 1 expert group, inside Jigsaw 2, is that each of those experts, now each one of those people is now an expert of part of that topic. So let's say they're experts in chapter 1. Each student, maybe there are 5 characters in chapter 1, and each student can now be an expert on one of those characters, for example. And now you can also start thinking about variations of how you could apply it to your content that you teach. Okay? The second component of Jigsaw 2 is the assessment piece. Now this is pretty cool. So regularly in Jigsaw 1, you just give an assessment afterwards, quiz, whatnot, and you give an individual score, just like you would do usually. Now, this alternative is not only do you give an individual score, you also give a group score. So that expert group, you take the average of that group and you give it to each of the students in that group. So they're responsible for themselves, and now they're responsible for each other. So if you feel like they weren't working hard enough the first time you tried Jigsaw, this is now a way to have them step up to the occasion and work harder. It's definitely going to create motivation and competition, and they're going to feel a sense of responsibility for each other to make sure that everyone is an expert in their expert field. So that's Jigsaw 2 variation. Okay? Jigsaw 3 variation is very simple. It's just adding a group review before the quiz or assessment. And I showed you last week when we did Google Slides, it translates perfectly into group review because now you have all of your information on the slides, and the students can teach it to each other to review before the quiz. Or the students can take the information and create some kind of review game. Or the teacher can take the students, what they created, and make a review game or a review of some sort. So that's Jigsaw 3. Jigsaw 4 is just more teacher-led. The teacher pre-teaches the information, and then regular Jigsaw, and then the teacher might have to re-teach any gaps in information that the kids didn't cover, that they didn't feel was on the level the teacher expected from the students. So that's the end of Jigsaw. That's Jigsaw 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Now, when I was doing research to find more, it's very hidden in the internet. Jigsaw 2, 3, and 4, it's really not. It's not easily accessible. But I did find a new teacher that I think is amazing. And I found 2 things that you might love to use if you're doing Jigsaw. Here is our Google Doc, just to reference always our shared Google Doc we all have. And her name is Laura Candler, and her website is called Laura Candler's Teaching Resources. Now here, the first thing I thought would work very well for the cooperative learning of Jigsaw is seating arrangements. So here is a nice PDF she created of different seating options. That's one. Again, all these are links inside a Google Doc that you can reference later. And the second thing I thought was fantastic was a team product evaluation. So the students can evaluate themselves and how they did inside Jigsaw learning. And the kids have to sign their names, so it's ownership, and they can evaluate how they did moving forward. You could also use this for anything else if you do any kind of cooperative learning. But again, these are just 2 examples of resources that Laura has made, and you have her, if you like what you see here, I gave you the link for her whole website, so you can go and find anything else that you like, premium things that are free. She also has by topic, English, social studies, etc. And she has a whole entire topic of just cooperative learning resources. So these are two things that I thought would benefit you guys. Okay, so that is Jigsaw. So, just like we did with Jigsaw, we had 3 weeks, 3 installations of Jigsaw. Today is the first installation of Google Classroom. We offer a 3-hour course in the summer, so this is a very, very short, quick tips today of Google Classroom. But these are our 3 favorite features of Google Classroom to start with. Number 1, I think is very underrated, is using topics inside Google Classroom. When you create an assignment, you can put a topic of what it is. So if you're in math, let's say you want to do graphing, then you could make the topic graphing. This helps yourself find what you're looking for later. If you're referencing, same thing with your students. If someone was absent, if someone needed remediation, you wanted them to do it again. When you have topics, it's easier to send your kids in the right direction. Because otherwise, if you don't use topics, you just have like a huge list of assignments, and it gets very messy and overwhelming. Bless you. Speaking of this, Alice Keeler, someone we reference all the time in here. We have her link to her blog in our Google Doc. She gives a whole lesson on numbering system of Google Classroom that a lot of teachers find very effective. So again, to help point the kids in the right direction of what your assignment is, or to keep things organized. So you can check that out. The next thing is sharing strategies. How you share things inside Google Classroom. There are 3 options when you create an assignment inside Google Classroom, how to share it with your students. First one is Can View. When you give Can View, it's as if it's just a PDF, it's just a picture. The students cannot touch it at all. So if you have a review sheet that you want to give to them that you don't want them to edit, but you want them to be able to study from it, so that would be one example, or anything basically that you want them to see but not touch. The second option is Can Edit. Can Edit is if you want, keep in mind, if you do Can Edit, the entire room, all your class is on that one Google Doc or Google Slide, whatever you're using. So that means you purposely want all of them to be working on one thing, so either have a portfolio of their work, let's say, or like Jigsaw last week, like we showed you Google Slides, you have a huge now review sheet afterwards, and you have all your student work, and they're all working on one shared doc or slide. The next one is the most used option, is make a copy for each student. And that's like just as if you're handing out a worksheet or paper to the students. And each kid gets their own copy of that assignment. Okay? Third one is create one assignment for multiple classes. If you're in Field Division and you teach 3 6th grade math classes, then why would you want to go inside each of your classrooms and create the same assignment 3 times? It'll take you forever. So what I'm going to show you in a minute is how to create one assignment and distribute it to 3 different classes. And that same concept, you can differentiate instruction of your students. So if you want to give 3 students advanced work, or 4 students remedial work, or some students extra work, you can do that inside Google Classroom. So the first thing I want everyone to do is to log in to the Chromebook, because I want you to join my Google Classroom today. So you're going to have the student experience. So it's nice for a minute. You guys get to be students for a minute. I'll be the teacher. I think it's okay. So again, you're having the student experience. So in your classroom, how you would get your students to Google Classroom for the first time, you would have them log into their Chromebooks, open Google Chrome, click on the 9 dots, click Classroom. When they get in Classroom, you're going to click the plus button and enter the code. So please do that now. Thumbs up when you're finished. Welcome to Google Classroom. There are 3 components to Google Classroom. The stream, which is just announcements. What would you say? What do you call it besides announcements? Like activity. It shows you the activity that has happened inside Google Classroom. The next section is Classwork. And this is the teacher view. You're going to notice that my view is different than your view as student, which is nice because now you get to see the experience for the students and you get to see the difference. So right now I have 2 topics. I have agenda and resources. You will see on yours that you only have resources because I did not post this yet. So this is created for me, but you guys can't see it yet. Which is another thing we can learn about later, which is drafts next week. Okay, so inside resources, you'll see if you open it up, you'll see that we put 4 of our favorite blogs, websites for you to get ideas and inspiration from. We're going to update that as we find more. Okay. Now, what I want to show you is the 3 things that I described. When you create an assignment, so we click on create an assignment, the first thing we see on top is what class are we in right now and what is this posting to. So right now it says Tech Tuesday. Notice there's a drop down menu next to that. If I click on that, this shows you all of the Google Classrooms that I have created. I have a lot because every time I do professional development, for example summer classes, I create Google Classrooms to distribute information, to do assignments with my students in my class. So I have a lot. I can click on more than one at once. And as you can see now, I'm going to send this one assignment to 3 classes. Notice that next to it, it says all students. I can't click that option right now when I click multiple classes. So if I go back to just my one class, this class, Google Classroom, next to it, now I can decide what I mentioned before about differentiation. I can see all my students. The default is that all students are selected. So if I click on all students, it lets me now click only, let's say, 4 students that I want to send extra work to. See? So that's the second concept that I mentioned. The first concept I mentioned was the topics. If you go down to the bottom, we see how many points this is worth if you want to make a due date, and then you have topic. That's where it hides down here. So since I already made 2 topics, like you saw, agenda and resources, that will be there forever. And I can always add something new into those 2 topics. Or if I'm making a new topic today, I can create a new topic right in here, and I can type it and it will save to my topics. Okay. So, even though there's so much to do inside Google Classroom, as I said, we have a 3-hour class in the summer. I wanted to show you Tech Tuesday, keep it nice and short. Those are the 3, I can't speak. Those are the 3 resources.
Tips.
What was it?
Tips.
Okay. Those are the 3 tips that we wanted to show you today for Google Classroom.